Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Divorce Coach Diaries. Thanks for hanging with me here. If you're watching on YouTube, I am very casual today, as you can see. And if it looks like I just finished a workout and threw on a shirt, you would be correct. I'm actually really proud of myself today. I just did my 500th Pure Barre class, and I've just been feeling so grateful. I'm so grateful for a healthy body who can move, and I feel so strong. And I am so filled with gratitude for the amazing community that I get to be a part of, and that it's so close to my house, right around the corner. I just love it, and I'm proud of myself. 500 classes at one studio. So, yay. I needed to take advantage of my quiet house this morning, and so here I am, post workout, very casual. Thanks for listening in, anyways. Okay, so today I want to talk about something that has changed my life and so many of my clients' lives, and is a really hard topic or concept to talk about without being misunderstood. And that is the idea of why it might not serve you to look at yourself or think of yourself as the victim. And when I say this, some people hear me saying, you caused whatever situation you are in, or you are responsible for the other person's behavior in some way. There's no such thing as a victim. And that's not what I'm saying. So stick with me here for a few minutes, and I want to help you more fully understand what I mean when I say putting yourself in the victim place does not serve you. So here's why. And let me say a few qualifiers first. One, I am not speaking about children. Children very literally can be, and far too often are, the victim of all sorts of things. And it's not fair, and it's not their fault. And because they are children, they are incapable, unable to escape the circumstances that they are in. So, of course, I am not talking about that. I'm also not talking about literal victims of things like sex trafficking. That can be adults um, who absolutely are victimized. They are trapped. They are often drugged or put in a situation that they literally cannot escape. I am not talking about that at all. There are real world scenarios that are not fair, and there absolutely are victims and perpetrators. You might be the victim of domestic violence. I am not talking about that situation. You are not responsible for that. If that is you, please reach out and get help. Those are the situations that I am not speaking about today. I want to talk about the mindset of victimhood and why that does not serve you. It doesn't serve you to see yourself as the victim. And here's why. Let's talk about Spider-Man, for instance. Spider-Man is the hero of that story. He needs people to save, and he needs someone to save them from. Because victims need two things. Victims need a villain, and victims need a savior or a hero. Now, again, I'm not speaking in any sort of religious terms about savior. I am just using that word as interchangeable like the hero. They need someone to save them. They need a savior or a hero, which in the case of the Spider-Man movies is Spider-Man. He's the one. He's the one who's going to save them. Here's another thing about victims. They're powerless. This is the main reason why I don't want you to think of yourself as the victim. I don't want you to feel powerless. It's a terrible place to stay in. Because we got out of the way what we're not talking about when I say victim, let's talk about why it doesn't serve you to feel or be powerless. And I want to make this clear as well. I don't want you to think of yourself as the victim for your sake. It doesn't serve you. It's not helpful. In your own head, if you think of yourself as powerless, as disempowered, as trapped or stuck, or at the mercy of somebody else's behavior, or waiting around for somebody to come and save you, or always looking around and finding villains. This is a terrible, terrible way to live for your sake, not for anybody else's. So for your sake, I want to show you that there are other options. Looking at yourself from such a disempowered lens or headspace or mindset or whatever word makes the most sense to you, it's only for your sake that this doesn't serve you. Okay, so I want to give you just a little bit of an example that is reoccurring in my own home. So one of my daughters, my middle daughter, is in 9th grade right now. And where we live, that's the start of high school. She had a bit of a rougher transition than any of us expected. And that's okay. The transition from middle school to high school for her was challenging. So she has one teacher and one subject that's really challenging for her in general. Last year, she had a teacher who was just the most perfect fit for her. She excelled in that class. She still worked hard, but the teaching style of this teacher, one, was a really good fit for her, and it just made perfect sense for her brain. And she knew this person because this person was also a cross country coach of hers. And so she'd known this person for years at this point, and they were really close. And she just adored this teacher as a person as well. So for her, it was a great fit. And she did really well and was recommended on the advanced track of 9th grade geometry. And this year has been rough for her. This teacher is really challenging. And for my daughter, she doesn't mesh personally with this teacher like she did with her coach and teacher from last year. And the teaching style is just different. And let me be clear, this teacher is a brilliant person, extremely smart and capable. And there are other kids who do really well with this teacher. But for my daughter, it's been really hard. She's not doing as well as she wants to. There have been lots of times through the years where she cycles through this thought process of, I think I should just quit. I think I should go back to regular geometry. And then soon after that, she says, well, no, I earned my spot in this class. I am going to stay no matter how hard I have to work. And so she cycles through like these types of things. And then of course there are all these thoughts like, this isn't fair. I am not being taught as well as I was last year, and she finds all sorts of evidence for that. And, I talked to this person and this person's mom went in and talked to the teacher. And she feels very disempowered in this scenario. She feels like she is at the mercy of this teacher. This has been a really good life lesson for her that one, you're not going to mesh super well with all of your teachers or your superiors, your bosses, your teachers, your professors, coaches. Not everybody is a perfect match. And she's had some really good chances to be her own advocate. We've had some discussions like she'll come home and she'll have a less than stellar grade on a test or a quiz. And she'll say, this isn't fair. The things that were on the test weren't what is on the study guide. The test was way harder than problems that we did in class, all sorts of things like that. And I just say, okay, what are you going to do about that? Or what do you think you should do? Or do you have any ideas of what you might want to do next? Because here's the thing that she knows about me and that I make very clear is that I am not willing to be the parent who's going to go in and have a meeting about any of this, especially if you're not advocating for yourself. Because here's the reality. She is not the victim. She has resources, for one, that she can go to that will help her feel more empowered. She can meet with this teacher as much as she wants. They make themselves very available to their students for office hours, extra study help, all sorts of things like that. She could go back and get extra help from her 8th grade teacher, who still is her coach and is very invested in Allie in all of the ways. She could meet with her advisor, who happens to be the department head of this subject for the high school. And I remind her of all of these steps that she could take that would most likely be really helpful for her. And you know what? She started to do it. She met with her advisor. She told him about her concerns and some of the issues that she's facing and why she was having trouble and her frustrations. She has asked for extra credit. She has gone in several times for study hours and office hours with this teacher in particular. She reaches out to one friend in particular who is very good in this subject, and they will FaceTime. And this friend, who I am so grateful for, takes the time to tutor my daughter and help her in an area that is harder for her. But again and again, we have the discussion of, what do you think you're going to do about this? Or do you have some ideas of how you might be more successful at this? And if she asks me for my opinion, I am happy to give her ideas or suggestions of what she could do. But for her sake, I don't want her to see herself as the victim. It doesn't serve her. Because then again, this teacher is the villain and she needs somebody to rescue her. And neither of those are true. She is not the victim. And I know that if you are listening to this and you're thinking, okay, great, that's an example about a teacher, but you don't know my situation. I know a lot of you are dealing with toxic or abusive partners, and I get it. I understand why it is so much harder to not see yourself as a victim in that scenario. But it will serve you to try and to find ways where you can be and feel more empowered, more powerful, more like the hero in your own story. Don't keep looking outward for somebody else to swoop in and save you. You don't need that. You are strong. You are capable. You are smart. You are amazing. And you are the one. You are the hero in this story. Often this question or concern comes up with my clients. It's something that you may have heard in therapy or in coaching spaces, something to the effect of, look for where you are responsible for your part in the dynamic. And sometimes this is a helpful way to look at it, and sometimes it's not. If there is someone who is engaging in emotional abuse or toxicity, narcissism, gaslighting, manipulation, coercion, things like that, let me be very clear. You are not responsible for that, period. Full stop. You just aren't. That behavior is about that other person and not about you. So do not take that on. And this person might literally be saying to you, if you wouldn't have done this, then I wouldn't have had to act like this. Or it's your fault that I am lashing out. This is not true. You don't have to take that on. Just remember that when your brain tries to tell you, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I am causing this. So maybe if I act in this way, then it will prevent this behavior that is so damaging to me. And you find yourself walking on eggshells even more and becoming a smaller and smaller and weaker version of yourself. And guess what? It doesn't work because their behavior is not about you. You cannot prevent it. It's literally impossible. And of course, we impact each other, but that is a huge red flag if someone tries to blame you for their own bad behavior. It's just not true. So, in that way, it does not serve you to figure out what your responsibility is in that dynamic or that behavioral cycle. So, how is it that you don't take on the responsibility and also aren't the victim? It might sound something like this. 1, setting and holding really strong and healthy boundaries. Those are your responsibility 100% every time. Setting and holding our own boundaries are about us. That is an inside job, and it can be really, really hard, but that is your responsibility in that dynamic. And one of your boundaries might be not continuing this relationship, not giving that person such access to you that they are even able to behave in such a way that either they're telling you you're responsible for or you feel responsible for. That is your responsibility. That is your part in that dynamic, is allowing it to continue. And of course, again, I am not saying that this applies to situations where you literally cannot escape. I know that those exist, and that is not what I am speaking to today. So please don't misunderstand me, and please don't hear me saying that those situations don't exist. I know they do. I wish they didn't, but they do. And it's not what I'm speaking to today. So again, try this on. See where there are areas in your life where you might try out the idea that it's not a requirement or just a fact that you are the victim. Because if you can see yourself as the hero or as somebody who doesn't need someone else to save them, as powerful, it will change your life. Just thinking of yourself in that way will change the outcomes. You will be more confident. You will be more creative. It expands your mind to look for ways that this might be true. I would love to help you with this. I know that it is so easy to find yourself in the victim space in your own head, and it feels so terrible. So I would love to help you see how we can get out of that just even a little bit or in a couple of small ways. I know it's not going to happen overnight, and that's okay. Nothing good ever does. So if this is something that you struggle with, let me help you. Come to my website or send me a message, megthedivorcecoach.com/free coaching. And let's talk about it. This is available to you and it will change your life. I know that sounds dramatic, and it is. It is such a huge shift in your life when you can change your thoughts just a little bit from I am the victim to what if that's not true? This will change your life, and I can't wait for that to happen for you. So thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today. Again, friends, have a wonderful weekend. I love you all, and I will talk to you again soon.